Well, good morning and welcome to the Christ Central Devotional series through the book of Mark. And if you are seeing this later in the day, welcome. And if you are new to Christ Central, or you just seeing this perhaps for one of the first few times, then you're also extremely welcome. I am continuing from the section in chapter 3 of Mark where we got to so far. I gave quite a long introduction to what I said yesterday, so I'm not going to repeat that. But I am going to go back slightly to where yesterday started off, which is where we began our reading yesterday. But I then skipped forward because there was something which I wanted to bring into today, which is the part marked in blue and green. So I'm just going to reread this and then the reading for today and then continue on. Then Jesus entered a house, and this is quite possibly, if not probably, Simon Peter's house, the fisherman whose mother-in-law Jesus healed probably around this time. And again, a crowd gathered. Now, they gathered inside the house. We know this because he and his disciples are not even able to eat. So the crowd's inside the house. It's a happening place. There's a buzz. People have already heard things about Jesus that have got them wanting to be there, to see, to be with, to find out. And then in this case, and this is early in his ministry, I said he runs into two forms of opposition, it seems, straight away, internal and external. The internal one is this: when his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him. Actually, the sense of the Greek is they went to seize him. They went to take him out of there, for they said he's out of his mind. Now, I just want you to think about that for a moment. Jesus's family, who he had grown up with, whose mother had an angel appear to her, whose father, or the person who played that role as an earthly father, had angels appear to him in dreams to say, don't worry about the pregnancy. Don't worry, actually now you need to get away from Bethlehem because people are coming to harm the child. Off you go to Egypt. The person who, when they went into the temple, or the people who, when they went into the temple to give thanks for the birth of Jesus, to name him and to have him circumcised, had two different prophets, a man and a woman, speak things over that child, which had Mary specifically storing up things in her heart. This woman, she knew and had experienced some amazing things, and she had watched. She didn't know everything, but when she heard that he had been essentially taking on the teachers of the law, correcting them publicly, and doing things almost apparently deliberately that antagonized them, to the point where, whether she knew it or not, they were planning on having Jesus killed somehow. It had got that far already, and we're very early in the book of Mark. She and the family were sufficiently disturbed by what was happening that whatever it was they imagined Jesus was called to or would do, they thought, this is beyond it. This is too much. He is out of his mind. We've got to go and intervene. I mean, wow. I mean, really, just stop there and think. Wow. And then the external opposition and the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, this guy, he's possessed by the the prince of evil, essentially. It's a foreign god. By the prince of demons, he's driving out demons. Yeah, we can see amazing things happening, but don't be fooled, it's evil. And then Jesus says something that really confronts them on this, and that's what we talked about a bit yesterday. So today's reading follows that on. So then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived, and they're standing outside the house. So the family is outside looking in, the crowd inside, I guess at some point maybe looking out. There's an awareness, oh, Jesus' family have turned up. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told Jesus as he was teaching them, hey, your mother and brothers are outside. They're looking for you. Now, here is fascinating, because the value of family in that, and I guess in most ages, is actually family have a call on you that no one else does. Family are special. You make room for family. You give particular attention to your parents. I mean, built into the 10 Commandments is honor your parents. Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you. And Jesus says, who are my mother and brothers? And then he looked at the people seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother, my sister, and mother. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. And that's where I really want us to settle for our thought. I've introduced it by saying what was going on in the minds of the family that so worried them that they felt they had to go out and intervene. Well, that's one thing, and that's really worth entertaining and thinking about. But this other thing, which may have been, and it wasn't intended to be offensive, I don't believe, but it may have been a bit hurtful. Because at that point, the family's looking in, and if they hear anything of what Jesus has been saying, they hear this and said, actually, my family, is bigger than the constraints of my biological family. My family goes beyond blood. My family moves into faith. And here's the real thought. We talk often about being children of God as believers. But what Jesus says here is almost a step that feels more intimate than that. He says, you're following my Father, you're following me. You are my brother. You are my sister. Maybe, hey, you're like my mum. This is who we follow. This is who we're dealing with. This is who we're called to. And he has called us into family. You are family. And you're not the family on the outside saying he's out of his mind. You're the family on the inside who is welcomed, who is included, who is chosen. A little advert at the end of this, because we're going to move to prayer in a moment. But my advert, if you haven't already heard me talk about this or seen anything about this, I would really encourage you to take the time to search for this made-for-TV life of Christ taken from the Gospels. Well, we couldn't take it from anywhere else. Called The Chosen. It is magnificent. And you're seeing there Andrew and Peter in their boat and Jesus with his back to us. The way they get the sorts of relationships that must have been in interplay in and below what was happening in the Gospels that we read is beautiful. It's the most true to life thing that I've encountered so far. Well worth the investment of your time in watching it. And the way that they actually are spreading this is quite interesting, and you might want to get involved in that as well. I think you will find it deeply encouraging. You will get an idea of the sort of family that Jesus has included us in. And from there, I think it'd be really good to go to prayer. And I think we should perhaps be praying about us as family. It's our week of prayer as a church. There are plenty of things which we've got as issues that we face out into, and some which we've got practically that are part of the issues of living and working in where we do, and the challenges that this nation's in at the moment. But in terms of the way that we relate together, let's pray for that. It's quite fragmented at the moment. It's very difficult. A lot of that's beyond our control. But what isn't beyond our control is our ability to pray. Well, no, we can do that.